car mods. We either all want to do it, or we overdo it. It's a slippery slope, and I don't like calling it an addiction, but it's definitely not logical. Today's episode is sponsored by Simply Safe. There's no safe like Simply Safe. So today we're testing out 3 nearly identical vehicles with 3 completely different levels of modifications, ranging from stock to bolt-on to fully built, to see just how worth it all that time, effort, money, and brain power is. I wonder what I would do with all this brain space if I didn't think about cars constantly. We're gonna get each one of these cars out on the road, get some real world driving experience with them, but then we're gonna put them on the same dyno on the same day so we can put some numbers behind the data to see how they all stack up. So for the first episode on these new series, I like to do them with my own cars. We're doing the GT3 RS. If you guys seem to like this, we'll do more with V8s, turbo cars, whatever else. But of course we gotta start it with my favorite car. The 997.2 GT3 and RS have pretty much an identical engine. It's a 3.8 liter flat 6 known as the Metzger. I got someone else here who's better suited to tell you why this is such a good motor. Boy. The Tim Barisha from BBI Autosport, the guy who knows a thing or two about these engines.
The Metzger, the 3.8 found in the 997.2 GT3 is by far one of my favorite engines. The reason why is that it's so versatile. It can be a good daily. You can pull the cats off of that exact engine, take it to a 24-hour race, run strong and competitive, put the cats back in it, put it in your street car. You could change the internals lightly, throw boost at it, make 1600 horsepower, turn it into a hill climb engine, turn it into a half-mile car. It's just so versatile and so strong and robust. Porsche has, I mean, this is the evolution of, since 1964 on up, it's kind of just an evolution of that engine. As we're talking, I'm looking at these trophies over here. Most of those trophies were earned because of that engine.
But Tim likes this motor so much, they actually took their Pikes Peak car, which is a 991, the newer chassis, and put an older engine in it and crammed 2 turbos at it, makes over 1,000 horsepower. Then they have a 993 project, their Evo, which you'll find out more about in the future, but that has a version of a Metzger in it as well. It's kind of crazy to see that you use this engine in so many different platforms.
Yeah, I use this engine in as many platforms as possible. It's just a good engine. It's my favorite.
So today we're gonna go see how is it stock, how is it with bolt-ons, and then we get to do something I've been looking forward to doing for a really long time, checking out your insane 4.25 liter NA fully built Metzger motor in that black 997.
Right.
Let's go do it. This is a dynamometer, or a dyno, which you guys all know that. It measures horsepower and torque output from the chassis of the car, meaning engine in the car, wheel horsepower. But what you may not know is they're all completely useless. And what I mean by that is it's not useless in getting the data we need, but it's useless when you're comparing cars. Because if you've ever been on an internet forum before that people post dyno numbers and there's tons of questions. What dyno is it on? What's the correction factor? What was the temperature? What's the elevation? And tons of other variables. So the only way to get the most accurate data is to be on the exact same dyno on the same day, the exact same time. Because what people don't know is there are actually multiple different types of dyno brands, and all of these brands have different readouts. For example, the Mustang dyno reads so low that people oftentimes will asterisk their power numbers with that it was made on a Mustang dyno because it's known as the heartbreaker. Why does all this matter? Well, it doesn't. None of this actually matters. Matters because we're trying to compare these cars and be as fair as possible. And I don't really care about what the max horsepower is, because we all know that the better your car is on track, the more horsepower it makes, the more visceral it feels, the worse it becomes at doing its core job, which is being a car. So we're not only looking at dyno numbers, we also want to see just how that power feels on the street and just how much it takes away from it being a stock, good, drivable, usable car. So let's get into it. Today's episode is sponsored by Simply Safe. I'm here in New York and I'm setting up my parents' house with their entire range of products. There were a couple break-ins in the area and I want to give them the peace of mind and also allow them to keep an eye on their most prized possession. Simply Safe is comprehensive security for the entire home with advanced sensors and cameras to detect threats from break-ins, fire, flood, and more. With 24/7 monitoring, Simply Safe agents are ready to spring into action to keep you safe and protected, dispatching first responders to your address whether you're home or away. Via the smart alarm indoor camera, these agents can even see and speak to intruders in real time, stopping them in their tracks. It's award-winning home security. It was named among the best home security systems 24. Simply Safe's 24/7 live guard protection and indoor camera gives us peace of mind no matter where we are. With Fast Protect monitoring and live guard protection, Simply Safe agents can act within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm. Unlike traditional home security systems, you'll never be locked into a long-term contract. You can cancel anytime. Simply Safe earns your business every day by keeping you safe and satisfied, not locking you in. Pricing is transparent, affordable, and is less than $1 a day with no hidden fees ever. That's less than half the cost of traditional security systems. Save 50% on your system and get a free indoor camera and your first month free when you sign up for Core Monitoring. Go to their website, simplysafe.com/VIN, and get your system set up. Now let's get back to the episode.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
So we got my buddy Pat here down from Santa Barbara, previously a Honda boy, now all grown up with his GT3 RS.
Yeah, this is my 2010 GT3 RS. It has 45,000 miles. I have a window tint, and I did wing risers and a radar detector.
So it's pretty much entirely stock. But this guy, you've had a lot of like really built cars.
Oh, yeah, from my former business, we built 2,000 horsepower GTRs, 800 horsepower Nissan 240s, 600 horsepower Civics, driven them all and had a bunch of fun. But nothing feels at home after you drive a GT3. Like nothing has that feeling.
This man's had an 8-second GTR. He's gone 210 miles an hour, and the half-mile stock GT3 is doing it for him. We should see why. Stock GT3 RS. And for all you guys out there that don't know, the GT3 RS is the stripped-out race car version of the GT3 that's already pretty gnarly for the street. It is pretty raw and rough and pretty visceral from the factory, but I've actually never driven a stock RS before. This car gives you all the feedback that you want, and it is pretty raw, but it's also pretty practical. And I will say, right off the bat, this car is very quiet inside. It's super livable. The clutch is heavy, the gearbox is stiff, the steering is very assertive, so it's not exactly the most comfortable car, but volume inside the cabin, not too bad. The power feels good, like just cruising it around town, I would say it's got really good response. It's got plenty of mid-range torque, revs nice. And it rips. You've had a lot of really fast cars, a lot of really high horsepower cars. I have myself, and I don't find myself getting bored with this level of power. The reason why we started with the GT3 RS is because it's already like the pinnacle of performance. You don't really need to screw with it at all. So I'm curious to see how much better you can actually make a car that is already, in my opinion, like at the top. A little second gear hit. Man, nothing beats the shifter in this car. Is so good. It has such an amazing feeling gearbox. And the downshifts are so crisp, because I think it's hard to improve upon this car as it sits right now. So let's go try it out. Well, we're usually very fortunate with the weather here in California, but today I want to put some cars on the dyno. It's 100 degrees. This is Jared.
Engine builder and engine electronics calibrator at BBI Autosport.
What do you think we're going to see here today?
So this is pretty much the absolute worst conditions for dynoing a car, but it's going to be good. It's going to put all these things through their paces, and you're just going to get real life data.
I know we're not going to see the best top number, but
Right.
the delta should all be the same.
Exactly.
Which is all we're after. Right now, we're not talking about what makes the most peak horsepower, but we want to see the difference. So as long as those are all consistent, it works.
Absolutely will be. Running a dyno jet, can't go wrong.
So we just got done with the first pull. Sometimes they take a little bit of time to adapt to the dyno, so we're gonna do a bunch of pulls and average them out, but let's go see what it made.
Looks like in these conditions, 360 is about all we're going to get. I can do a few more just to see if it adapts out, but last pull is about 360 as well.
So the stock car put down 362 wheel horsepower and about 300 foot-pounds of torque. These are not great peak numbers. The heat is absolutely killing the power. It's pulling timing. There's a bunch of knock. So we're not seeing great peak numbers, but I'm really curious to see what the bolt-on car is going to do. All right, guys, we hit a small snag in my science project. Pat was super concerned about his car making such low power that he brought it to a shop to have it checked out, thinking he might have low compression or some sort of issue there. What they found out was something pretty ridiculous. I've talked about those flaps in the intake manifold on the stock GT3 RS. His were actually not opening. So if you look at the top of his curve and the high RPM, above 6,000 RPM, his dyno chart is flat. He brought it to a shop. They found out that the valves were not working properly. It didn't throw a check engine light and it didn't throw any sort of code. It just screws my results just a little bit. I wanted to be honest with you guys. I didn't think that it made sense to just disregard the fact that his car had a problem. I think I would have graded the bolt-on car a little bit lower just because there's not such a large delta in power. You still get more sound and a better overall experience of the car with all the bolt-on modifications. I don't know, maybe take a half a point off. This is my 2010 GT3 RS, and I know a lot of you guys who've been watching the channel have seen this, but for those of you guys that haven't, here's a quick rundown on it. It is the ultimate bolt-on boy build. It's got every bit and bob that you can throw at it. When I got this car, it had a GMG World Challenge package on it, which is basically like all of the suspension bits, from coilovers to arms, big brakes, roll bar, kind of all the basic bolt-on stuff you could do to sort out the chassis. And then in my ownership, I did a Dyno Motorsports D4 power package. And what that is essentially, it's a throttle body, an intake manifold, headers, high flow cats, exhaust, and a tune. This kit retails for nearly $30,000. I know, it's crazy. Dyno develops and makes parts for cars that they only made about 1,000 of in the United States. The margins are small. I know the same stuff for your WRX is like a fraction of the price, but give me a break. So I've had this car on the dyno up at Dyno Motorsport. We did a whole tune on it, but it was on different octane gas. It was on a different dyno. I'm curious to see what it does. I'm definitely curious to see how it stacks up to a bone stock car. The stock GT3 RS that Pat has actually has what's called dynamic engine mounts. So they tighten up as you drive the car. This does not. Right off the bat, you can feel that this car is a bit more rough. The suspension rides more harsh. The interior is louder. And because it has the semi-solid mounts, you get a lot more of that vibration coming through the cabin.
It feels faster.
Does it?
It feels like it has better power, but it also could be the fact that it's more connected to the road.
The stiffer suspension, the louder, the harshness, like it sort of makes you feel, no matter what, like the butt dyno makes it feel like you're going faster.
Yeah, that definitely feels snappier and quicker. It feels great, but I feel like some mid-range power seems to be missing.
Yeah, a lot of times you might lose some mid-range power because you need to move power around when you're adding. So if the Dyno stuff is making more power somewhere, it has to take it from somewhere else with that intake plant on it.
It's definitely louder on this side.
All right, next up, we're pulling my car in. This is the full bolt-on car. I'm excited to see what it's gonna do. We had it on the dyno up in Washington when I installed these parts, but that's 92 octane and on a hub dyno, so no idea what it's gonna do here. Bolt-on car did 419 wheel horsepower and right under 300 foot-pounds of torque. Kind of nuts that this car picked up 60 horsepower. There's a lot of little things like because the stock mapping may not like this weather as much, the Dyno tune may be a bit more adjusted to like harsh conditions and bad octane, but still, any way you slice it, 60 horsepower is a lot. At the end of this episode, we're gonna go through, we're gonna overlay all of these graphs on stock car, bolt-on, and the built car, and we're gonna compare and see just what that means in the power bag. Last car of the pack, this is the built engine car, and it's BBI's Street Cup 997.2 GT3. The only non-RS of the pack, but at this point it doesn't really matter. It's a customer of theirs, this guy Joe, 997 Turbo Cab. He's got some pretty incredible cars, but this 997 has been one of my favorite builds to follow. You gotta tell us about it.
We've touched a lot for Joe's car, but my favorite part is the powertrain, the engine and the gearbox. The engine is what I would call a stage 3, 4.25 liter package. We've been doing quite a bit of these lately, but not to this quite level because Joe always wants us to tweak a little bit more. But we've touched everything: bore, stroke, rod length, oiling system, heads, cams.
It's a pretty simple package in that like they could drop off their engine, you build it to spec, to this.
Exactly. So we've developed this entire package just for that. So it's still street friendly, makes a bunch of power, a lot of torque, fun to drive, and all the right noises.
This is when I'm honestly just hoping that it doesn't make that much power, so I'm not tempted to do it.
That's what I was hoping last time. when he had the leak at last time, I was like, I have the package on the shelf ready to go.
No, shut up. Let's get into it. Look at it. So, of course, with Porsche engines, it looks pretty factory. You guys keep stock intake manifolds, cylinder heads, stock block castings and stuff?
Yeah, all of that stock. The intake manifolds from the RS 4-liter, so that's a OEM part, right? The throttle body stock OEM. The airbox is modified. Obviously, this is racing.
the new badge here, like that.
Yeah. And then opened up exhaust, but the heads are relatively stock. I mean, we just go through them and remill them and rebore the case and open everything up. But really, it's utilizing a lot of the OEM components, except for anything that moves.
Right. This car has so much done to it, so we're going to go through it kind of quick, but you could see more on their page and Joe's page.
Visually, you've got a carbon splitter that they designed in the Grand Am days back in 2010 and 11. Full floor underneath it with diffusers. OEM cup fenders, flares, RS 4-liter dive planes, bespoke carbon hood. Cool part is Kevlar doors. So
crazy.
Yeah, and the windows still roll up and down. There's actually a Kevlar reinforcement. Like in the OEM door has a steel reinforcement, stronger than stock.
Crazy.
So still closes like a 911.
And then I noticed one thing here, dual caliper kit for ripping handbrakes or what?
No, not for ripping handbrakes, but this has RSR knuckles and subframes and all the suspension under it. So we had to remachine because there's no provisions for an e-brake in the RSR, right? So we remachined that and used a Willwood caliper and a bracket.
Crazy. This is a cup car for the street.
Brain damage, cup car for the
cup car with air conditioning.
Yeah, the front's all RSR, subframes, knuckles. All the geometry is designed to have the car actually lower than it is, but we have 19s on it. And then you notice it's still a narrow body, but we were able to still do the 325 with a 12-inch wheel.
Wow.
And then it's got an OEM RS wing with an aftermarket carbon deck lid.
Pretty intense. The interior on this thing is pretty nuts. We got to jump into that.
So
cup car theme.
Cup car theme, yeah. It's still actually a cup car steering wheel. We use that because we have these. And you notice right here, no shifter.
No shifter at all. This is still a factory 997.2 GT3, so they only came in manual.
But there is a clutch pedal. We have a SATEV sequential 6-speed gearbox in here that actually it's the same architecture of gearbox that we use in the Hunepig by the same company. It's so nice on the street. It's violent, but yes, paddle shifters, but you still have to use the clutch to leave the light. And when you stop, downshifts, automatic blip, upshifts, you can keep your foot down and just rip through the gears. And then, so Dimitri built this cover. This is the little e-brake knob. This doesn't work anymore. That's how you activate the e-brake. The old chrono deal, we turned into a gear indicator.
I love that. It's such a subtle little touch. Usually this is just like a little lap counter thing, the Sport Chrono, but now it indicates what gear you're in. It's so cool.
You can get lost as you're doing this, and there's no provisions for a gear indicator on the OEM dash.
I like that it's up on the dash too, so you see it. And is this your own, this is BBI cage?
Yeah, this is our back half harness bar. It's got the JRZs. Joe went and redid the entire interior.
This is an intense build. I'm excited to get it out on the street and then see what it does on the dyno.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. Man, these 991 buckets are nice.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Oh, clutch isn't bad. It's a little weird going into a manual and not putting it into first or giving it a little wiggle. Right off the bat, it's not terribly loud. It doesn't vibrate more than my car.
Right.
Does it have solid engine mounts?
Yeah, everything's solid.
The gearbox is a little jumpy.
Well, and the throttle's a little tight.
Yeah.
Pull a little more gas and then pull the lever.
Oh God, this is. Yeah, oh my Lord, this is so sick.
Yeah, that's what mentally messes with you.
You built a race car for the
downshift.
street. Clutch, no clutch.
No clutch. And then you want to clutch into first when you're going slow. Yeah. So now you're in first.
Yeah. Okay, so you handle it like a regular sequential. Oh man, from the outside, it almost sounds like a 991 with the upshifts, but on the inside, it feels like you're in a cup car.
Right.
It feels like a race car, but it feels like a really good street car at the same time. It doesn't actually make any sense that it could be so rough and smooth at the same time.
That's the paradox there. That's why I love this car so much, because the duality of it is bananas.
The engine feels really smooth. For a guy who has a bolt-on RS, this is actually smoother inside right now.
Yeah, we painstakingly balanced the engine, and we've spent a lot of time balancing all the components, and that's That's where you'll get a lot of that smoothness from.
The crazy part too is this car has pretty much no noise restrictors other than a little muffler.
Just to knock the edge off.
And there's like no drone.
Right.
It's pretty crazy. Oh my God. That was like 3% throttle. This just feels insane. And I think a lot of this jitteriness that I'm experiencing is probably like user error and the fact that I'm not used to the car.
I'm not trying to say that, but you can drive around all that stuff.
You can. It's just, it's a learning curve, but like I'm realizing like when I'm driving it, you're like, okay, actually a little bit of throttle modulation in some spots will smooth out
Right,
a big portion of it.
Lash,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah, that's like a quarter throttle and it feels incredible. Like I feel like this whole part of it's just gonna be me like being mind blown. This really is the ultimate no compromise car.
Yeah, it's my favorite car to drive. Every time the car is out of shop and he's like, hey, but Tim, I want you to put a few miles on it, dial things in. I'm like, it just made my day.
I love it. I would totally drive this on the street in LA traffic and not really think twice about it.
Yeah. Why not second gear?
Oh my God, those downshifts are insane. I gotta go home.
Yeah.
I can't drive this.
See, isn't it hard to explain it to somebody like what kind of car this is? It's so hard until somebody's here.
Oh my God, dude, that is unbelievable. I'm blown away. This is like incredible. Thank you so much for letting me drive this. And thank you, Joe. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Joe.
My brain! 490 horsepower, naturally aspirated on 91 octane in 100-degree weather is pretty insane. Dyno results. The weather, not the best. Dynoing cars in the really hot heat isn't gonna net the best results, but guess what? This wasn't about top numbers. We don't care about peak numbers. What we're looking for is the delta, meaning the difference between stock to full bolt-ons and full bolt-ons to fully built. But let's dissect these graphs a little bit because it's not all about top line power. You also wanna see where your usable power is. And this really comes into play when we're gonna do turbo cars because turbos could put the power all over the power band. Since we didn't make a dramatic difference in torque through all three cars, we're gonna start with the torque curves here. Basically, what you're seeing is that the blue car, obviously having much more displacement, is going to make a lot of torque further down to the left of the dyno chart, meaning low RPM. Bigger displacement is always going to make more download torque. So you could see here at 3,500 RPM, it's making over 50 foot-pound of torque more at 3,500 RPM. This is gonna be what you feel the most driving around town. And when you're looking at the stock car versus the full bolt-on cars, there's not a major delta here. We're talking a couple pound-feet of torque difference between the two. But if you're looking at the stock and the bolt-on car, the torque curve is actually really interesting because the stock car is making a tremendous amount of more torque at low RPM than the full bolt-on car. Now that's because these Dundon parts are removing flaps from the intake to help give it more top-end power, get more air into the cylinder. So you're gonna lose a little bit of bottom end. This is just common knowledge when you're trying to make NA horsepower. Now horsepower. There is a horsepower torque crossover and every single internal combustion is at the same exact RPM, 5250 RPM. It's where horsepower and torque crossover. It'll be like that on every single engine, every single turbo configuration, no matter what. So above that 5250 is where you'll see the power start to climb. That's where the bolt-on car starts to shine above the stock GT3 RS. The long tube headers, the high flow cats, the optimized intake runner size, the bigger throttle body, all equates to putting down more power up top. On the fully built car, no shock here, but you're up another 70 horsepower over the full bolt-on GT3 RS. So you have a really big delta, and I think it's great seeing that the 4.25 liter fully built engine is making over 120 horsepower more than stock is great. If Pat's car's down on power a little bit because of the heat and them not being optimized for 91, it is what it is. That's what you feel when you drive your car on the road. Time for the old trusty whiteboard. Here are my categories. Dollars spent, how much more fun it added, the resale of the car entirely with the mods, and the practicality. So for the stock car, spent $0. So I'm giving it a 10. The stock car is incredibly fun. Really enjoy driving Pat's car. If I bought that car and didn't know what the mods did, I'd be tempted to do it, but also pretty damn good. So I'm gonna give it a 9. Resale is gonna be interesting. I'm gonna give the GT3 RS, the stock one, a 10 because right now the car market on those is absolutely booming. And you know what people want? Bone stock cars. So that's where you're gonna get your most money. Practicality, that car is not super practical, but not having modifications, you gotta give it a 10. Which brings me to this, the full bolt-on car. Spend for 60 horsepower for 30 grand in a car like this, I'm gonna give it a 5. Because look, at the end of the day, 60 horsepower is a lot of ponies to pack in there. Fun, I'm gonna give it a 9.5, and this is why. Noise alone, this thing sounds awesome. It's so much better than the stock car. It adds being that little bit more visceral than the stock car is, and it's a bit faster. So of course it's gonna be better. Resale, this is where you're gonna get hit, 6.5. I think buying a car with mods like this could be really good, but for collector market, it does take a hit. So it's getting a lower score to 6.5. Practicality, I'm gonna still give it a 10 out of 10 because nothing here, it made this car less practical. And the last car, the fully built Street Cup car. This one is gonna be crazy, but the spend is nuts. I'm gonna give it a 2. I mean, you get a lot of fun out of it. You get a lot of fun. The car is a complete riot, but it's really expensive. But if you have it and you can afford it, I say do it. Fun, I'm gonna give it a 12 out of 10. This car was unbelievable. I've never felt a more complete package race car for the street. It was so much fun. I couldn't stop thinking about it. 12 out of 10, shouldn't be allowed, but we're doing it. Now resale, it's a really tricky one. I'm gonna give it an 8. I think at a certain point, you're not gonna break even on a car like that, but that car is still gonna be worth a tremendous amount of money because of the development and the prestige and all of the crazy parts that have gone into it. Practicality, I'm gonna give it a 6. The engine is crazy expensive, so you probably don't wanna put like unnecessary wear on it, although I'm sure it'll last a really long time. But the transmission, as cool as it is, it's one of my favorite parts of the car, makes it less practical. Super clunky, straight cut gears, some lash in there. It's not the easiest car to drive for that reason, but it's still really great. Like we sat in traffic in it, it idled, it did all the things, it did really well. This was a really fun episode to make, despite it being absolutely miserably hot out. We shot this and the Worth It Ferrari 360, my portion of the video, during SoCal's absolute worst heat wave that we've had in years. And it was brutal, but it was still a lot of fun. We almost killed ourselves for YouTube. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like, comment. We're making these videos every Thursday, and this is really the type of content that I want to make. I'm really trying to make shows I think you guys would enjoy. I really enjoy making them. So always gonna do build content, always gonna be doing some like random lifestyle stuff, but let me know if you guys enjoy this type of content. Pretty cool for me to make, and I think you guys seem to enjoy it.